Thank you. Hi, everybody. So this is Culture Push, and we have an open call right now for the Fellowship for Open Utopian Practice. But first, let's say a little bit about what is it, who we are, who is Culture Push, who's here with you today. So this is a lovely graphic that our digital media manager, Serbi Naik, made. There she there. And I am Clarinda MacLow, and I'm the executive director of Culture Push. So I started this, and that's me in my youth. But I started this organization with two other artists. So we're an artist-run organization. So everybody that you see on the tree is an artist, and all of us are dedicated to serving and working with other artists. So I started in dance and biochemistry, and then I kind of branched out, if you will. And one of the things I became interested in was how we can change the forms that we're given by making our own templates. So Culture Push was an experiment for me and Arturo Vidic and Aki Sasimoto in creating like a new kind of organization where artists can help artists. And that's who I am. And I make art, I make other kinds of art. I teach at a few different universities. And I work on Culture Push. So Danae, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Sure. My name is Danae Howard. I am a conceptual artist and a community organizer and a curator and many other things. I wear many hats. I work with Culture Push at this moment as the director of the Black Utopian Fellowship. However, I started working with Culture Push specifically in programming and aiding in programs. The Black Utopian Fellowship was just a conversation that I had with Clarinda surrounding my ideas of wanting to create something specific to Black and Brown folk, and having like a space to work interchangeably with other Black organizations. At this point right now, I am a working artist, as Clarinda stated. I also work for other institutions as a teaching artist, and just here to aid in creating legacy for Black artists to have spaces to create in.
Thank you. Moira? You are muted.
I'm following the mute thing. Hi, everyone. My name is Moira Williams. My pronouns are they, them, and Moira. I'm super excited to see you all here. All your gorgeous faces and names. Thanks for joining us. I am a disabled Indigenous artist, curator, organizer, disability cultural activist, and the stuff I do and participate in at Culture Push is I help with disability information and help work with you, the fellows, on making your works more accessible, your gatherings, your art, whatever it is that you're up to, your civic engagements, all your amazing works. And I also am here to help you code think. And I've been with Culture Push for, wow, I think almost a year now. Thank you. And that's it for me. Thanks, everybody.
Time flies. And then, so on the tree, as I said, is Serbi Naik, our digital media manager, and Sam, our accounts manager. So if you just arrived, please make sure, whoops, what just happened? Did my screen suddenly go away? What do you see right now? I'm sorry. Something.
I see you. Now the slideshow went away.
Yeah, okay. Oh, please. And meanwhile, just if you're not speaking, please remember to mute yourself. Thank you. All right, I'm almost there. So I'm trying to recover our slideshow to continue. Okay, there we are. All right, so we're most of the Culture Push team. And so what is Culture Push? It is an organization. We're interested in how we can engage with artistic practice in a variety of ways. And here you see, this is a slide that has many different activities from our last symposium. We have a symposium called Show Don't Tell every year, where fellows and associated artists share their work. And some of our engagements are online, and then a lot of them are in person in many different parts of the city. And we are interested in how we can be socially engaged and how we can bring our different disciplines together. So we all have different specializations, as you just heard, like we do different things. And how we engage with that is part of how we want to push the field forward. And we are also explicitly anti-racist and pro-queer and pro-disability. And we want to make sure that everybody has a place here. It's a organization begun by artists for as many, and the tent is big. And so moving on. Okay, so this is why you're here. Fellowship for Utopian Practice. Fall 2023, our open call, and the deadline is September 25th, 2023 at 11:59. And again, just for all of you, if you want to ask a question, you can do it in the chat, and then we will answer when we get to a place where there's a break in our little slideshow here. Okay. So we started the fellowship in 2012, and because we wanted to create a platform where artists and creative professionals could test new ideas through civic engagement, meaning working within different kinds of communities. And we're open to all creative disciplines. We generally work with artists, but we've worked with designers and architects as well. And people,
farmers and many different types of folks.
right, and people who don't call themselves artists. Because because we're interested in ideas. So
Yeah.
a lot of people have really good creative ideas, and whether they call themselves an artist or not is not really relevant. It's more like, what's your idea and how can we help nurture it? And one of the most important things, which we'll probably come back to, is that we're really interested in ideas that are at their very beginning, because there's not a lot of support for projects that are at a seed stage. So that's an important part of this, that it's like, if you're at the beginning, you may have done like one prototype or like some part of it before. However, you're right at the beginning and you need support for that.
Right.
So I'm going to blah, blah, blah for a while, and then I'm going to hand it over to Danae, just in case you're wondering how this goes. Okay, so, and some of this you may have seen online, but it's helpful to go through it together too. And we want to test new ideas that connect artistic practice, civic engagement, and social justice. And I always put up this little triangle, and there are varying degrees of each possibility, but those are our 3 points of reference. And we provide a small stipend, but what we mostly are able to give you is creative, analytical, and logistical tools as you go forward. And that means, that can mean a lot of things, which we'll get into soon. I don't want to start listening them yet. So just to give you a little historical reference, from 2012 to 2016, these are some of the projects that we supported. One of them is called the Free Black Women's Library, and that's Ola Akinmowo. You may have heard of it. It's grown and grown and grown, and it's very exciting. But it began as an idea that we supported at the beginning. And then Dances for Solidarity is a co-creating platform for people on the outside and people who are incarcerated. Oh, thank you, Danae. That's a good idea. And then there's a lot of people who work with art and science as well. And we very much encourage people to work with their own communities. It's not required. You can also reach out to other communities, but we do want to say, like, hey, if you have a question for the community that you consider yourself part of, right? This is a great place to think about an idea and how you would develop that and how you would create solidarity within that. And then one of the more activist projects that happened was creating an app for day laborers and people, undocumented workers, to be able to document wage theft. So there's a lot of possibilities, and that was just the first 4 years. And now we're over 10 years old, so we're in our tween years, and who knows what's going to happen, right? Okay. So what's happening now? We have people who are gathering the oral histories of food culture in New York City and Bangladeshi communities, exploring waterfronts as spaces of environmental and social resistance, and working with communities who are affected by gun violence to create something that goes beyond a memorial. Sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I'm listening.
Okay.
I'm just in awe a little bit of all of the things that we're doing, actually.
I know the people. So our fellows, as you can see, you are all part of this wonderful lineage because you're here, but people are really taking their souls and creating practice. And I think it's really beautiful. yes, we all think it's really beautiful. We don't usually see it like condensed like this. So we're like, oh. Preserving images and stories of elders from the LGBTQIA plus community in Harlem, and developing African traditional religious healing approaches for evolving the world. So what's next? That's the good question. Who are we going to work with next? Great. So it's a year long, and we select 3 fellows for each application cycle. And for fall 2023, 1 slot is dedicated to the Black Utopian Fellowship. So we will have 1 Black Utopian fellow and 2 other fellows that are TBD and not necessarily themed or, yeah. Though I will say that we have noticed that there always is a strange thematic kind of something that emerges among each cohort. Because we're asking about like what is happening now, and people are responding with what is happening now. And so of course, there's often something that's top of mind for a lot of people, or some kind of thing. Okay, it's you, Danae, take it away, Black Utopian Fellowship.
Thank you, Clarinda, for sharing all of what Culture Push is doing and has done. It's really amazing and kind of crazy. Also, I want to say thank you to everyone who showed up. This makes us feel really good that we're getting the word out of what we're able to do and share and how we are being responsible to our community. I think we're doing the work. So Clarinda told you a little bit about the fellowship. It is a incubator fellowship in which we aid this person in really building off of the intention of their project, aiding them in having like moments to meet and speak to them through their project, also aiding them in finding resources, and ultimately having one sort of outward facing program to share what you've been doing through the year. And that can be a part of our symposium, as Clarinda brought up before, or just your own separate thing. And I guess to speak to this year's theme, usually I tend to try to figure out a specific theme to bring and engage the community who is applying for the Black Utopian Fellowship. So this theme this year is pleasure. I have a little quote here from Adrienne Marie Brown. It says, "We have to make justice the most pleasurable experience humans can have." And I'm not sure if there's too much more details that I'm missing out on, but for me, I believe this theme came up out of just the ideas of wanting to speak to like the existence of Black folk and how we get to engage with pleasure and taking the time to actually have that. Like if you're constantly working and you're constantly like just in the mode of survival, having any pleasures can be complicated, but it's also just important to have pleasure for the existence of ourselves to keep us going forward. So it was a question that I just wanted to share and throw out there to see if we can further develop and understand and unpack it together. But I'm going to read from this slide. For this year's cohort, we asked fellows to propose projects that highlight practices of pleasure, a feeling of enjoyment, but when truly realized, one of the most poetic forms of resistance, a state of pure ecstasy and unapologetic joy, glee with the understanding of meeting needs beyond survival. We ask applicants to propose projects that unpack the taboos of pleasure as a means of self-expression, of self-identity, and or love, bearing witness to the unraveling of gratification as its intricacies of these feelings. Thank you, Clorinda. Some of the possibilities that applicants could consider, for example, are creating spaces that protect and celebrate the ritual of leisure, pleasures like roller skating or getting one's nails done, focusing on how the practice of intimate pleasure sustains our psyche, but also continues to populate into the future. These projects should be new, intention-based ideas that combine the theme along with an outward-facing programming component. Thanks. And here are some questions that may help generate thought. But also, if you have any other ideas, feel free to write me. We can speak it through before your application is due. I can let you know if this makes sense in terms of what we were grasping.
Great. Huh. So, as I said, deadline. Thank you, Danae. That was really great. I'm always so inspired by your thought process. And I also put Danae's email address in the chat. So, getting down into the nitty-gritty. It's open to all artists. Yes, thank you for your questions. We will answer them soon. The fellowship program is open to all artists and other professionals working in any discipline who wish to expand the boundaries of their practice. Applicants are encouraged to review the mission of Culture Push and the specific nature of this open call before submitting any materials, because it's a fairly specific ask, and we want to make sure that you're using your time well. And here is, so some of you may have seen this, but I'm also going to drop here in the chat. We, Sir actually devised a little quiz to help guide you. So this link in the chat will take you to that quiz, and it can help you think through whether this is the right opportunity for you. And the Black Utopian Fellowship goes to one applicant, as we mentioned. So here's our mission, in case you were wondering. And all of this is available on our website. Everything is available on our website. A lot of it is available on our Instagram. And if you have questions, you can always reach out to cp@culturepush.org, which I'm putting in chat. So we're an arts organization that creates programs to nurture artists and other creative people who are approaching common problems through hands-on civic participation and imaginative problem solving. So it's pretty open, but also there's some specificity. Want to create a lively exchange of ideas between and among many different communities, artists and non-artists, professional practitioners and lay people, across generations, neighborhoods, and cultures. And we support the process of creating new modes of thinking and doing. And we are a diverse community of creative people. And our programs focus on collaboration and group learning through active participatory experiences. So just a side note that Aki, Arturo, and I all come from the dance background. And part of what made us come together was a desire for very active being present within an art space, being present together as a group. And whoops, sorry. Sometimes this happens. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what so what's happening right now is that the slideshow has gotten away from me. So please hold. Whoops. All right. You're getting a sneak peek. Okay. So we mostly offer programs that are all over New York City and based in New York City. And they take many different forms and they're low cost or free. Apologies for that brief freak out in the slideshow. All right. Timeline. September 25th is the deadline. In October, we will have probably mid to end of October, we will inform the fellows. And then in late October, early November, we start our initial discussions. And then throughout the year of the fellowship, we can have that is the year of the fellowship. Okay, Danae, you should probably take over because I'm losing mine. You can just read from the slides. That'd be
Sure,
great.
yeah, I'll read straight from the slide. So, in terms of eligibility, applicants must have at least 3 years of experience in their field. Currently enrolled undergrad students may not apply. Projects must be new, socially engaged works that have not received any prior institutional support and occur within the 5 boroughs of New York City. Group or collaborative proposals are also welcomed.
I'm just going to pause here to say that the project must take place within New York City, but the fellow does not need to live in New York City. So we have had people, because we know the housing situation in the 5 boroughs is insane. And some people have to live in New Jersey or Long Island. That's how it is. Yes, it's real. But because of our structure, it does need to be contained. Whatever happens has to be contained within New York City.
Yes.
Okay. Go on, Danae.
Sure. Criteria for proposed projects. To be considered for the fellowship, projects must be interactive and engage the public entirely or partly. In accordance with our mission. Note, our definition of civic engagement includes public talks like interactive components, skill shares, participatory performance, and similar activities that in some ways address the public good and have clearly defined goals for serving as a means of generating social change. Some ideas, I guess we can say, some of the folks in the past couple of years have used Zoom to have like different types of meditations or have inviting type of space of engagement in a park where they shared their projects. They also test a new and previously unrealized idea that expands the scope of the applicant's current practice.
Cool. So go on.
To be considered for the fellowship, projects must not be considered as an exhibition or the production of a show, but rather a series of events and or actions aimed at engaging the public.
Okay, one quick note on that. That doesn't mean that having a show or an exhibition can be part of a larger project that you're doing, but the part that we would be engaging with you on and supporting would be explicitly this more specifically participatory or collaborative component. Let's go on.
Occur during the fellowship year.
Oh, can I editorialize one more time?
Yes.
So we have a fellowship year. There is a container. That year can be slippery. Sometimes it's a little longer, every once in a while it's a little shorter. We just evaluate at the end of the year, and make sure and see where the fellow is at. And then if it feels like, oh, we need to extend a little longer, then we do. Okay,
Yes.
go on.
Take place within the 5 boroughs of New York City. Projects may have components outside of this geographic region, but they will not be supported by Culture Push. If your proposed project is part of a large piece or series, Culture Push funding may only be applied towards the public engagement component of that project.
Okay, shall I take over? Or do you want to keep going?
Maybe Moira.
Moira.
Hi, I was just going to say that. Moira speaking. I'm happy to read.
Sure.
What we provide. Honoraria for the project is $2,000. Fiscal sponsorship for additional grant-based fundraising and individual contributions. So we offer fiscal sponsorship for additional grant-based fundraising and individual contributions. We offer strategic meetings with Culture Push staff, like myself, Danae, and Clarenda, that include development and production support. We also offer access to materials for the arts, and we offer networking meetings with Culture Push board, executive director, staff, advisors, and other fellows. So we have a huge family, essentially, that we are happy to connect you all with. We also provide marketing via the Culture Push network, via our email list, our newsletter, and our social media contacts for promotion purposes. And I'm happy to continue reading.
Yeah, go for it.
If you, oh, and we also, we also provide mentorships with experts in the field, an opportunity to contribute to or edit our online journal, Push Pull, which is an incredible journal, an opportunity to present your research and project development at the annual Cultural Push Symposium, an opportunity to exhibit your work at a public presentation produced by Culture Push alongside past and current fellows. We also provide Culture Push does not provide, let's go back. Culture Push does not provide a venue or an exhibition space for projects, but we will work with fellows to help secure suitable sites. Culture Push does not have a site. We are Culture Push.
We are a distributed network. So we were this way before it became cool. Or before it became completely common. So we don't have physical plant, meaning we don't have a building, we don't have a specific office. We want to preserve all our resources to go towards people. So we can't like present people in a Culture Push space, but we partner with a lot of different spaces. And that is actually one of the things that is a strength, because that creates a network between Culture Push and these other spaces and other organizations, and also creates a relationship between the fellows and these other organizations. And where it says the opportunity to exhibit your work at a public presentation, we are always looking for exhibition opportunities so that we can also find ways to create gallery experiences of these more participatory projects. And so it's not, we don't have something established every year, but we reach out to different organizations, or we answer open calls for exhibitions. So that's what that means. Thank you. Questions?
We have a question in the chat from Eva, asking if you have a virtual project that engages people in New York City, but also beyond, is this supportable?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. Thank you for asking, and nice to see you here. So I would say at this point, we can probably, if there is something explicitly New York based about it, then probably we can. It's because it's partly that we have to keep track of things, but also our funding comes from New York City and New York State. And part of their remit is to support work that serves the people of New York City and New York State. So I think if you can make a case that it is serving these people as well as those beyond, then that would make sense. And also for us, just keeping track. There is no application fee. No fees, no fees. Anybody else? Somebody asked if there was an application fee. Sorry, in the chat. Any other questions? Feel free to, this is a good time to unmute and express yourself as well if you feel comfortable doing that.
Hi, I have a question. My name is Wow. For the stipend that's being given, is it up to the artist's discretion for use, or is it specifically for the project that needs to be done within New York City?
It is up to your discretion. We don't tell you how to use the money. It's paid out in 3 different installments, but it's kind of like, you know how you need to use this money. If you want, if you need it to pay your rent, that's fine. It's not, yeah, we don't really ask, we used to ask for a line item budget. And at some point we'll ask you like how you have been using these funds. But if it's like, I paid myself an artist fee, that's fine. That's a totally fine use of it. Does that help? Great. Okay. Any other thoughts, questions before we go on?
I have a question, Clorinda.
Okay. What is it?
What if I am what if I send in my application and I don't make it this time? Can I get information with how to make my application better next time? Or like how to be like, how do I figure out what Culture Push actually wants? Like,
Thank you for that question, Danae. Yes, we give feedback on all applications for people who request it because we believe that is super essential. And we are all artists who are frustrated by the lack of feedback to applications. So, excellent question. Any other questions? Absolutely. So Betty asks, if my project is ambitious, will the beginning phase of the project be eligible for funding? That's exactly where we want to be with you. So if you were like, I have a huge idea, where do I start? I'm going to start here. We want to start with you. And I mean, because for example, the Free Black Women's Library is always a good example of this because it started very small, but her ambition was large and it has been realized. Started as a pop-up library on a stoop in Bed-Stuy, and it is now a storefront with 5,000 books, also in Bed-Stuy. So yes.
I have a question. This is Moira speaking. If I am having trouble with my application, do you have any kind of support for disability or for access for sending in the application?
Absolutely. So as we'll get to when we go through the application questions after this question section, you are able to send in a written narrative, but you can also send in a video or audio narrative. If writing isn't helpful, doesn't work for you. And that's a perfectly fine way to share your proposal. And that's in the application process. If you look in the application, you will see that. Okay,
Two more
thanks.
questions, but
Go.
I don't want to take up space if someone
No,
else
no,
has
no,
a question.
no. You know, so your questions are helping somebody. So please go.
Okay. So one of my questions is, say your project, you need a venue for it, and the venue is asking for a certain amount of money to, to be able to use that space. Would you guys help cover that fee for the venue, or yeah?
No. We would work with you as much as possible to find the funding you needed. So that's
Okay.
the fiscal sponsorship and also strict strategizing around funding.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but we are a lean, mean machine and can only provide just we have a lot of ancillary, you'll see a lot of ancillary possibilities. So meaning like a lot of different kinds of possibilities. So we have like a flat partner agreement and mentorship fees and things like that, which are other pots of money for like collaborators. But unfortunately, we can't yet, depending on funding. If we do get more, then we might have that like allocate some to space rental.
Okay. And then my second question is, you mentioned that there will be multiple fellows and the Black Utopian Fellow would be one of them. How do you apply for like the others? Say you don't get the Black Utopian Fellowship, can you be considered for the other ones, or okay.
There is a question on the application that says, if you don't get the Black Utopian Fellowship, would you like to be considered for the fellowship? And you say yes, if that makes sense for you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking those questions. You are not the only person wondering that.
This is Moira speaking. Betty Beaumont and Amani Harmon have a question in the chat that I'm happy to read out loud. Betty asks, what percentage does Culture Push take for money that comes through you as a fiscal sponsor?
So for active fellows, there's a 4% fiscal sponsorship fee. People often ask, oh, how do I pay that if I don't get anything? Well, you don't get anything, then there's no percentage. So that's only of any money that comes through us. There is no other fiscal sponsorship fee. We don't say like, you have to pay us $25 and then we take a fiscal sponsor, but otherwise it's 4%. Thank you for asking that. That's a good question.
And Amani asks, are there past fellows who have created a physical offering that goes beyond the scope of NYC? Example, a pamphlet, zines, workshops, etc.
Oh, yes, so much. So like the Dances for Solidarity has branches in 4 different cities, working with different prisons and jails throughout. So that is great. Creating a living legacy is a really important part of this work, in fact, because the participation can be ephemeral, but the knowledge that's gained from the fellowship projects is eternal. And it's great to have ways of making it available to people who weren't participating in that specific engagement. Excellent question. Y'all are awesome. Okay. Any last questions before we move on? Okay.
Moira speaking, though. I do want to just let everyone know that Eva had said, had added into the chat about saying that, yeah, that was my other question. Thanks for asking it. Moira out.
This is where you can find the application. And let me see. Yes. what starts on the ground can go everywhere. So Moira, if you don't mind putting that in the chat, the guidelines link, thank you. I can't find it quickly and I want to keep going. So pretty simple stuff. First and last name, email address, pronouns, title of the project, project summary. So that's just like a quick blurb that gives us a snapshot of what you're thinking. And then a project narrative. And that describes your proposed project, its goals and timeline, and the link between your project, the Culture Push mission, with as much detail as possible. And then we like to see a little bit about you through a 2-page resume or CV. Does anybody else want to jump in to talk about the details of the project narrative?
Sure.
You can go there. You can go, Moira.
Okay. I didn't want to jump you. Application questions, project narrative. The project narrative describes your proposed project, its goals and timeline, and the link between your project and the Culture Push mission with as much detail as possible. Your project narrative may be submitted in the text box as a written narrative with 500 words maximum, or a link to a video or audio spoken narrative with a 5-minute max, including any passwords that we may need to access your audio or video. The panel will not read, watch, listen beyond the limits of a 5-minute application or of 500 words.
And this is just because we have many applications and we want to make sure that everybody gets the full attention of the panel. So just so you know, and in case it's not clear, we have an independent panel of people outside of Culture Push who make the decisions. And 1 or 2 of the staff may be on the panel, but we want to make sure we have a really independent view on how, on the people that come into Culture Push, so that we're not just making the decisions internally. I'm going to do this one just because it's tricky. Work samples are tricky. So you can submit recent relevant work samples, and they can be images, videos, audio, PDF document, whatever is appropriate for your form. And along with that, you submit a 1-page PDF that has short descriptions and context. And because of the limits of our application form, all files must be less than a total, altogether 20 megabytes. So no more than 5 images if you're using images. You may also link to an online gallery or video or video or audio content, so that there's you can also give a link. But video samples should be no more than 5 minutes long. And if the video that you submit is longer, then just create cue points for the 5 minutes that you want us to watch. And for those, make sure that you provide only up to 3 links. And I'm going to answer Eva's question right now. If an application is being prepared by a small collective, say 5 people, not an individual, should one person submit the bio info? Or do you accept bios from everyone? Excellent question. We love collectives. So we want to know all of you. So if you have a CV, so the CVs, you can have 2-page CVs for everybody. Okay, so a little more about work samples. So we understand that the project that you are proposing, you haven't completed or even yet developed, and we understand that the work samples will not necessarily be of the thing you're proposing. So just include your strongest work samples that are most relevant to this specific project. are there limitations on work samples for, oh, good question, Imani. So Imani asks, what are the limitations on work samples for writing? Huh. We've never come across that yet. So I will say we're going to think about that, and then we'll make sure that's included in the application form. Thank you very much for asking. My guess is somewhere in the area of 5 pages, just again, because of limited time and attention. And must the work samples be recent? If you've done something that a long time ago that you feel is particularly relevant, and you can say that this is still part of your practice, the work samples do not have to be recent, I would say. And you can also send like a sketch or a rendering or a mock-up of the idea you're proposing, if you think it would be helpful. Oh, sorry, wow, you raised your hand.
Yeah, I was just curious because I'm looking at the application, and under work samples, there's like the red asterisk, which means, you know, like it's required. If I just want to submit links, will that work, or do I have to attach a file as well as the link?
You do not have to attach a file, but we actually request, and well, maybe you have to make this clearer. There's something weird about the application form where you can't, when you submit links, it doesn't go through all the time. So we prefer that you submit a file with links in it. I know it's dumb, but that's how.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
got you. Thank you.
Thank you for asking that, so we can make sure we revise the application form to make that clear. All right, I'm going to continue.
It's a space thing though, Clorinda. Like, I think that's why they asked that we put it in like a PDF with the links.
Yeah.
Because it won't allow us to take stuff.
Yeah, it's a very strange thing. We like our table application form, but it's we try asking for links, and then sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So we might have to take that out. Ooh, yeah. We're workshopping it right now with you all. What fun. Okay. So these are examples of some work samples. This is Simone Johnson. So we have another themed fellowship right now called the Climate Justice Fellowship. And so this is a work sample that Simone submitted, but she put it in context. So this is why the PDF with context is really important, because it tells us what you were thinking if the work sample isn't about what you were doing, or if it's only like if it doesn't have all the information in the work sample itself, you can provide a little bit of context. And then this is an example of some of the short descriptions and some of the work samples that came along with them, by Angela Miskis and Cody Herman. So we understand through the work sample, the work you have been doing that is somehow related to the work you are proposing to do. Oops. And this is again a little more from Simone. So these are the blurbs, and then Blessing was another climate justice fellow as well. So these are the blurbs, and these are some of the work samples or assets that illustrate the work. And also we have really beautiful, like these are the most kind of rough or maybe unconventional, some of the, documentation, but you might have really great documentation. That's great. It's just, we want to say that we accept a gamut, because again, we're paying attention to the idea and the feasibility of actually like you wanting to figure out how to realize this idea. And Then we ask for a reference. So this is somebody where if you make it to a final round, we will be calling this person to just get a perspective on someone who already knows you in a professional capacity, because we'll be working very closely with whoever becomes the fellow, and we need to know that that's going to be okay, because it can be hard to work together. And then we have this program called the Associated Artists Program, and that is where people submit fellowship applications, which are really great ideas, but are actually a bit farther along than we would usually put in a fellowship. But because they're really interesting and could really benefit from institutional support, we offer this Associate Artist Program, which is kind of like fellowship light. So we may not have quite the intensive support, but a lot of people have gone through the Associated Artist Program and really gotten a lot out of it, because you do get fiscal sponsorship, you do get some strategizing, and there is a smaller stipend associated with it. And so if you want to be part of that, that's one of the questions. If you don't get the fellowship, do you want to be part of the Associated Artist Program? And then you will be considered for that as well. And then we always want to know how you heard about the fellowship. And we're kind of interested in where you usually get the funding for your projects. That's not like essential, and there's no judgment in that. It's really just kind of like out of wanting to understand who is applying and what their resources are. And then anything else you need us to know. So I'm going to hand this over to Danae now.
Hey guys, back again. So for the Black Utopian Fellowship, I do have some questions, some additional questions, just to understand like the applicant and to aid in the folks who are reviewing your application. The questions are: how will your project aid in revitalizing Black futures? What are 2 Black organizations you would like to connect with through the fellowship? What generally are your sources of funding for your project? And if not selected for BUF, would you like to be considered for the Fellowship for Utopian Practices, which someone asked prior?
Yes, they did. So we have some frequently asked questions. Moira, do you want to address this first one?
Absolutely. Hi, Moira speaking again. Frequently asked questions. Do I have to complete the project within the fellowship year? No, your project does not need to conclude within the fellowship year in order to be successful. We only require that you develop your project during the year and have at least one public presentation of your work. The fellowship is a process-based program. We are more interested in supporting artists as they develop sustainable working strategies to pursue unusual lines of inquiry than in seeing a finished seeing a finished product. Many fellowship projects become long-term commitments that only begin with the fellowship.
Thank you. Okay. Trying to do the access. Oh, we discussed this, right? But we'll talk about it again. Do you want to take this on?
Yeah, absolutely. Moira speaking. Do I have to live in New York to apply? Technically, you do not have to currently reside in New York City to be eligible for the fellowship. However, the fellowship is designed to support artists engaging directly with people, places, and institutions in New York City. If you do not currently live in New York City or New York and would like to apply, we would expect you to relocate here for at least the duration of your fellowship in order to develop your project and attend regular meetings. Outside of the $1,500 stipend, we cannot currently provide funds to assist with travel or living expenses.
And actually the stipend is $2,000. Sorry, this is a little out of date. That's the problem. That's what happens. Artifacts.
Mhm.
Okay. So we are pretty much at the end of our presentations. So please do share with us any last questions you might have. Wow. Go.
Yeah, so the last part about relocating for the fellowship, do we need to relocate or can we be like in and out of New York? Like I can definitely go to New York. Like I can commute back and forth, but yeah.
Do you mind me asking where you live?
So I'm based out of Maryland, like around DC.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You don't have to, that's more directed towards people who, there's a lot of people who write to us from Europe and now also,
Okay.
and they're like, I want to do this thing. And so basically, we're saying that if you want to work in New York, you have to engage with New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. We went longer than an hour. That's amazing. So that means that a lot of good questions were brought up. This is our email. Please feel free to reach out. And the next info session is on September 18th. If you want to pass that on, I'm going to put a couple of links in the chat. There's the Zoom registration and then the application form. And everything is online. Yay. Okay. So thank you all so much for being with us. It has been an excellent, this was excellent, and it's going to be super helpful to people who are watching the recording. So, we'll see you in the application form.
See you guys later. Thank you so much. I hope you have a lovely evening.
Yes, stay dry.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all your questions and for joining us tonight. Can't wait to read your applications.
Peace.